copywritten production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would take your seats, and we will try to get started on time here. Please rise if you can, and we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome to our board meeting today. I'm Tom Foster, president of the 2024 Board of Directors. This regular meeting of the Rec Center of Sun City Board of Directors is audio and video recorded by the RCSC management and staff. Please be advised there is to be no recording of this meeting by any individuals. Please take out your cell phones and electronic devices and check them to ensure they are put in a silent mode, which I am doing right now. We do not tolerate verbal or physical abuse toward any member, guest, visitor, employee, or staff member. Violators will be asked to leave the meeting. I hope we all can adhere to that. I would like to introduce our timekeeper and our management personnel. And timekeeper will be Secretary Rick Meyer, General Manager Matthew D. Lazansky. Finance Support Senior Leader is Kevin McCurdy. Morning. Facilities Senior Leader Mike Whiprood. Hello. Non-Golf Senior Leader Mike Deermeyer. Hello. Golf Senior Leader Brian Duthu. Assistant to the General Manager Debbie Giles. And the board coordinator is Marcia Johnson. Good morning. Also want to recognize Alan Kleinhan, Carla Young, Miguel Jackson, and Doreen Rafferty, our audio-visual engineers. And of course, thank the Sundial staff for setting up the room for our meeting today. First order of business is the roll call of the voting members by Secretary Rick Meyer. Would you proceed?
President Foster.
Here.
Vice President McAdam. Here. Treasurer Borski.
Here.
Secretary Rickmeyer, I'm here. Director Ruff.
Present.
Director Nettesheim.
Here.
Director Keiss.
Here.
Director Fimmel.
Here.
Director Collins.
Yes, hello everyone.
Okay, Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Excellent. I would ask, are there any questions on the agenda?
Today.
There being no questions, the agenda is approved. Minutes of the November 21st, 2024 meeting were posted for the director's review. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? All right, there being no corrections or additions, the minutes of the November 21st, 2024 meeting are approved. Treasurer's report, Treasurer Borski.
Okay, Treasurer's report as of December 19th, 2024. The balance of unrestricted funds as of November 30th, 2024 was $13.7 million, which includes a $2.5 million cash reserve. Restricted funds include the Preservation and Improvement Fund, PIF, and the Capital Reserve Fund. As of November 30th, PIF had a balance of $36.5 million, and the Capital Reserve Fund had a balance of $5.8 million. Capital Improvement Fund, CIF, received to date a total of $1.3 million. The carry-forward balance as of November 30th, 2024 was $6.7 million. This balance decreased from the 2023 year-end balance of $10.4 million due to the allocation of $6.5 million in carry-forward funds towards the 2024 budgeted capital projects. Year-to-date, the corporation has generated a net operating deficit of $469.9 thousand, which was unfavorable to budget by $1,624,000. Respectively submitted, Anita Borski, Treasurer.
Would like to ask the board if there are any questions on the treasurer's report. Preston?
This obviously was not a good year for us financially if we're unfavorable to budget by over $1.5 million. There are a lot of reasons why we got here. I think that our golf projections were just way off, and that shows in the numbers. My big question is, we are where we are. What are we going to do differently in 2025 so that we don't run into this situation again, because we just can't sustain like this?
Fine. General Manager Dielazanski, would you like to address that?
Sure, I can start and Kevin can add to it if he likes. So we learned a lot about weather, and we learned a lot about what happens when you raise prices in terms of dropping the demand for golf, which lowered the revenue, and the heat caused an awful lot of additional expense. So what we're doing, and we've already started on it, we're going to look at a closer month-to-month and try to see beforehand what the projections look like in a more normal manner than we had this past year. Some things are just beyond control, and we will try to make those estimates earlier, and then either we can adjust the budget or we can make more drastic cuts. So I did try to reduce as much spending as I could starting in September, but since the bulk of our really costs are in employees, without closing golf courses and raising prices, we considered raising prices on golf back in October, and we didn't do it. So now we're going to see a price raise in January and again in October. We don't know what those price increases are going to do to the demand. So we may be back in this position, but we will be much closer watching it and making the adjustments either to the budget. We did have some offset this year, thankfully, that our interest income will cover the $1.6 million almost entirely to bring us whole by the end of the year. But that's not a good enough excuse that we don't want to count on that year over year. So I take responsibility for it. It is my responsibility, and we are putting together control measures even later today for next year to address this and keep a closer eye on it going forward. But right now, I don't think there is anything we could have done short of closing a golf course and raising fees to not be in this position.
Go ahead.
Would you like to say anything, Kevin?
No, I think you covered it.
And I think we bear some responsibility for it too, because we have a responsibility to watch how things are going, and we as a board could have done a better job of making sure that we're on top of things also. So there's a dual responsibility here.
Director Nettesign.
I have a question. I remember when the Budget and Finance Committee was meeting during the summer, I was under the impression, and perhaps I'm mistaken, but I was under the impression a decision was made that any income earned from restricted funds, by their very nature, becomes restricted funds. Because it's earned from restricted funds, it is a restricted fund. So any money, interest earned from PIF or SIF would have to go back into PIF or SIF, not into the general fund. Based on what I'm reading in the management report and what you just said, Matthew, it sounds like you're planning on using the interest from PIF and SIF and operational.
Not at all.
Okay.
Director Ruff.
I think what he was saying with that is it's a net for the corporation that we'd be in the black for the year, not where the money is in particular. One of the things that I think we need to do better is, and I said this the other day, and we've done this a lot, but we need to do it even more. One of the members came to me the other day and said he had like 5 or 6 golfers complaining about the increase in fees. He said, ask them each, well, how many rounds did you play last year? 170. Well, let's see, the price is this, divided by 170, you paid less than $15 a round, and that's a problem? And each of the golfers there went through the same thing and said, yeah, that's pretty darn cheap. So I think one of the things we need to put out is a document like that and keep going back to it every month and ask the golfer, or keep it in the golf starters' hands, and even just pass it out and say, how many rounds do you play a year? This is what it's going to cost you. Here's the point between the full price and the, I don't know the terminology because I don't play golf, but for the next lower band where it's $800 or whatever it is. But if you put also on that sheet the 5 closest to us prices, and they can see the comparison, we're still really cheap compared to everybody else. It feels like a huge chunk of money when it's coming out of your pocket, but if you don't have a reference to the rest of the world, it's not as meaningful. You can get indignant a lot more quickly. But when somebody points it out to you, you go, hey, you know, that really is still a good deal. So we need to do a better job of doing that. Thank you.
Director Collins.
Yes, and this coming year, I really want to see more bids. I want to see us get bids on almost everything, because I think we're just getting taken advantage of, and we need to follow the rules that are set up and get bids. Thank you.
Did you have more, Director Kais?
I just wanted to add on to what Director Ruff was saying. Kevin did a really good job giving us the information you talked about at the Golf Advisory Committee meetings when the committee talked about the budget. And it's probably worthwhile to have a lot of those slides that you put together, put them right on the website, right on the front of the golf page, so that people can see that and have that information there for them. Because I think those slides were fantastic in making the Golf Advisory Committee understand why we're doing what we're doing, and so having that out there so more people can see it, I think is going to be useful for us. Yeah.
I'd like to repeat. I'd like to see it at the golf course where the golfers come in and the guys checking them in and can say, oh, by the way, read this, please. The more people you can get to read it, the less the angst will be.
Mr. President.
Director Collins.
In 2025, we will be closing Quail Run to do the upgrades. I would really like to keep a watch and see how much, because in the past we have made money when one course was closed. It's a smaller course, so it probably won't be that much. But I also think in the summer, I don't understand why we can't close a course, let it rejuvenate itself just for the summer, and you could actually rotate it every year. And if that saves us money and helps the golf courses, it might be a win-win situation. So if we could look into that, please.
I would just like to, were there any other?
Brian.
Oh, go ahead.
Director Collins, just wanted to, part of the reason why when we had course closures and saw a increase in the bottom line was a lot of the expenses, especially for the big projects like North and Riverview, that go into the yearly maintenance of the course are actually become part of the project itself. A lot of the fertilization that we do in the summer, due to the fact that we have to recover the grass, gets built into the project costs. So the costs, the fact that we make money is partly because the project's covering a lot of the operating costs that the course would have normally incurred.
So are you suggesting it's an accounting phenomenon?
That would be another way to word it, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Would there be an advantage to the course conditions if they were if one course was shut down over the summer and let it rebound on itself without traffic on it.
I'm sure the course itself would probably see some positive impacts to not being played on for a summer, yes.
And possibly with that closure, the walking paths could be open to the walkers.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. We can debate that more at Golf Advisory, I'm sure. But I did want to circle back just quickly, Mr. D. Lazansky. You mentioned some controls that you were thinking of putting in place even yet today. I wonder if you could elaborate just slightly on that.
I can. We have a meeting at 1 o'clock with all the senior leaders and the financial controller that we're going to talk about what we've come up with, probably 10 things to discuss. So we don't have a list for you, but as soon as I have one, I will bring it to you.
All right. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, the management report is then accepted. I'm sorry, we were at the treasurer's report. Now we'll do the management report.
Any
Is there
questions?
any questions on the management report from the, yes?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm going to revisit what I asked previously, and maybe Kevin can answer versus Matthew. I'm not sure, it's up to them, but when I was reading through the financials, it says, the year-to-date net operating deficit variance was partially offset by total investment income from unrestricted capital and PIF funds totaling $2,265,000 and being $1,177,000 favorable to budget. This offset brings the net month-to-date within 1.5% of budget with a month to go. When I read that, it feels like we're saying we're using all three to offset where we're at in the budget. I would like to suggest if that's not the case, if the PIF income is going back into PIF funds, the SIF income dividends are going back into SIF, can we reword that? Because for me, it's very misleading when I read that. And it sounds like that's not what's happening, so.
So Director Nedesham, I'm not 100% sure I understand, but I will reiterate, all of the investment income in the PIF fund stays in the PIF fund. All of the investment income in the capital reserve fund stays in the capital reserve fund. The point we're trying to make here is that we're reporting a budget variance to the net operating line, which doesn't include other income expense. So we have a significant unfavorable budget variance at the net operating line, but then a very favorable variance on the other income line. And so, as Director Ruff mentioned, from a corporate level, those two almost offset. So we're still bringing in cash way over budget on the investment side, but that investment income in PIF and capital reserve, we don't grab that and say, okay, that's now available for operations.
Okay.
That doesn't happen. Those incomes from investment that they stay in the relative funds.
Okay. My comment was literally just when I read that, it felt a little misleading, so maybe different wording. That was really where I was going with it.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Director Collins.
so where are you going to get the shortfall from? What fund is it coming out of?
We have carry forward.
And how much carry forward is
We
it?
have over $6 million in carry forward right now.
Okay, thank you.
Director Kais.
Yeah, when you talk about information technology, I know there's been a concern from the Golf Advisory Committee for a long time that the Wi-Fi at North is, to say it's substandard is being nice. So what are we doing to fix that? Because I consistently get comments about that.
So we're still working with Cox to install fiber at all of our locations, all of our rec centers, pro shops, et cetera. And it's been a long, slow process with Cox. There are permitting issues, there are installation issues, but I don't want to promise anything because we're dependent on their schedule. but we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel with respect to them actually finalizing fiber installation. We've got 7 facilities that have come up and are active on fiber right now, and we're working on the rest of our facilities right now.
Okay.
Any other comments on the management report? Okay, then the management report has been, oh, I'm sorry. Director Borski.
I have one small question on the snack shop revenue. We increased prices recently, didn't we? Those just went through. Is there any pushback on that, or has it been accepted, or are sales up or down?
Director Borski, there was obviously some verbal feedback from members, but the November performance was very favorable in the snack shop. So
Okay.
despite the verbal consternation, it didn't seem to affect sales.
Well, that increase was pretty small. I mean, it wasn't a huge jump.
On a percentage basis, it was fairly large, but
Okay.
it was mostly built around supporting next year's budget. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
Director Collins.
My question is, a couple months ago, we were told that the incident reports this year, we were at 590, and now here we are, we have the same figure again. I heard that a big part of golf is incident reports, where it never used to be. So, and all of a sudden they stopped. I just don't understand why we went to 594 in October, November, and now all of a sudden we're still there.
Do we have any response to that, gentlemen?
Director Collins, we had 58 incident reports in the month of November. I'll have to go back and look at the previous month's total for year-to-date, but it may just be an oversight where I didn't update the year-to-date number with the 58 new ones that we got in the month of November.
Okay, thank you.
Director Ruff.
On page 7 at the top, it talks about, I'm not really sure what the numbers are about, but I think it's the number of people that attended. But I think there's a typo in there, because Fairway is in there for November as having 925,709 people, when the month before that it was 19,796.
Me?
Oh.
We were giving away free stuff this past month. No, I'm just kidding. I missed a plus sign in the formula box. It should have been 15,800. It's fixed now. It'll be correct with the next month report.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
The fitness row is going to be corrected also, because that was 938,000.
Yeah, it was an error with fitness. That was so. Yeah, that'll be correct also.
Or maybe people were just getting buff. I don't know.
We had a lot of influx of working out. Right.
Preparing for Christmas cookies.
Well, thank you for everyone's review of that document. Are we completed now?
Mr. President, I actually have just an observation, I guess, that we do not report our incident reports in totality. We report our incident reports by division of some kind, i.e. there's an incident report for golf, there's incident reports for other individual things. There is not an incident report, for example, for all incidents that occur in the corporation.
We track incident reports by the type of incident, and we track incident reports by the facility or the location where those incidents occurred. We obviously know the total number of incident reports that have been submitted year to date. If that was the question, I'm sorry.
I don't want to really discuss incident reports because they're confidential in their nature, but we had a certain number of incident reports for the corporation, And I'm hearing numbers now that are very high for incidents at golf. And so I'm wondering if those incidents were not included in the incident report review that was done last year, simply because they were done separately. I guess that was my question.
No, they're all in the same bucket. We don't track and record and report golf incident reports separately from other incident reports. They're all in the same total incident reports received to date.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Director Collins.
Even at the same figure, 594. Last year, we had a total of 187, I believe it was. And to me, for something has changed, I can't believe our people got that bad in a year, but something has definitely changed.
We've done quite a bit of training with our staff, where a lot of things that were overlooked before are now being documented. So while there's probably an overall increase in people behaving badly, there's also been a lot of discussion around we have the obligation to protect our staff, and you've noticed that what gets read in the beginning of these meetings and the signs that you've seen around, we take that very seriously. And in the past, where things would happen and no one would write it up, they would just let it go. We are training our folks to say that's not acceptable. So there's probably some split between the actual incidents going up and the better reporting of incidents. So we won't know until we have this training in place for a couple of years to see where it levels out and if it declines. My goal is that by training people and by communicating with our members that we won't tolerate verbal and physical abuse toward our staff or anyone, that over time we'll see an improvement. But in the meantime, whenever we're taking the time and effort to document things, I did expect to see it go up.
Now, when you we do these incident reports on this personnel, do they all know and make it, is it in writing on that letter that you give them that they have the right to appeal that and go for a board hearing?
Certainly.
Because it seems, we don't know what they're being, I don't want to weaponize incident reports. I mean, that's what I'm basically afraid of, that we're turning them into weapons, and we don't want to do that. I mean, they said that they don't, the golf ranges aren't handing out tickets, but they're doing a lot of incident reports. So you won't collect the $20 fine, but you might get them kicked off the golf course and out of all rec centers if they get 3 of them in 3 years. So I just want to make sure we're not headed down that road. Thank you.
Mr. President, I would also like to make one more observation, because we did conduct a review of the incident reports last year, and they were of the incident reports. This year, I noted that in the incident reports, there was a new category that had not been there the previous year, marked behavior. And there seemed to be a very large number in that category marked behavior. So that's not just incident reports. I'm not exactly sure what the distinction is between incident reports and behavior as a category. But that was there was a rather large number in the behavior column.
So, based on the report, it appears that like 420 of the incidents reported were either medical or injury related, which leaves 174. Could we get a trending report of where those 174 lay? Not so much, I don't want individual names, I just want a trend that says, of these 174, 50 were this, 12 were this, 1 was this. So I'm just looking for a trending report, because clearly you are doing trending, otherwise you wouldn't know that it were medical or injury related. And based on this 594, by and large, the majority of the incidents we have reported are related to medical situations or injuries. So I'd like to know what the remainder is, if we could, please.
Can we accommodate that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right. Have we exhausted the management report now?
Yes.
All right. The management report has been accepted. We now want to bring up the newly elected directors for 2025 and have a little ceremony that will swear those individuals in. So if you would step up to the podium right here in front, we'll conclude this.
Okay. So, members of the Board of Directors, ladies and gentlemen, and directors-elect. On behalf of the RCSC Board of Directors, I congratulate you on your election. By electing you, Tom Foster, Rick Gray, John Bressett, Chris Nettesheim, and Anita Borski, the membership of RCSC has displayed their trust in your judgment, leadership, and expertise, and gratefully acknowledges your willingness to accept the responsibility of conducting the affairs of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated for the length of your term. For Tom, Rick, and John for the next 3 years, and for Chris and Anita for 1 year commencing January 1st, 2025. As volunteers, with no monetary compensation, you will be devoting much of your time to the benefit of your fellow members. The policies the board adopts and the authority you delegate to the senior management of the corporation must not only reflect keeping all RCSC properties in superb condition, but also concern for the welfare, safety, and quality of life for members and staff alike. During your board tenure, you will be required to balance numerous, varying, and conflicting interests. Know from the start that you will never satisfy all those interests despite your best efforts. Pursue the best and highest good for the whole of the community as you position RCSC to be a national leader in 55-plus socially active lifestyle communities. Directors-elect Tom Foster, Rick Gray, John Bressett, Chris Nettesheim, and Anita Borski, do you pledge to uphold the Articles of Incorporation, the corporation's bylaws, and the board policies to the best of your ability, and to work for the benefit of our community as a whole?
I do.
On behalf of all of us, I wish you success in this undertaking.
Chris doesn't get to stay?
We have an incident. So I am honored today to present 3 outgoing board members and returning board member at the same time, with an award in recognition for their services to the RCSC, and also to acknowledge and thank appointed director Chris Nettesheim, who completed a term during 2024. So Kat Fimmel was elected in 2022 to a 3-year term and served as president and director. Kat also served as chair of the Golf Advisory Committee, Technology Committee, and Insurance Committee. She was co-chair of the Long Range Planning Committee and Properties Committee and served as liaison for Friends of the Library and the Sun City Museum. Kat was also on the Bid Commission and Investment Commission, as well as chair of the Viewpoint Lake Management Board and president of the Sun City Foundation Board of Directors. Karen McAdam was elected in 2022 to a 3-year term and served as vice president and director. Karen also served as chair of the Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee and the Election Committee. She was co-chair of Lawn Bowling and Technology Committees and served as liaison to the Sun City Homeowners Association. Karen was also on the Bid Commission and Investment Commission, as well as a member of the Viewpoint Lake Management Board. Anita was elected in 2024 to a 1-year term and served as treasurer. Anita also served as co-chair of the Club Organization Committee and Outreach and Communication Committee. She was liaison for the Sun City Community Assistance Network, the Sun City Museum, and was vice president of the Sun City Foundation Board of Directors. So I'm honored to present each of you with an award on behalf of the Board of Directors, the RCSC, and the membership, and thank all of you for your service. So if you would just... Thank you very much for your service.
Nice job.
All right. Next on the agenda are committee and liaison reports. Do any of the directors have such reports today? Director Collins.
Thank you, President Foster. I would like to thank Terry Watts, Barb Kelly, Ellen Ruda, Patrice Cienko, Diane Barnstead, Linda Johnson, Mike Wendell, Bill Center, Jana Maples, Dennis Stokely, Lori Ellingson, and Bernice Darish. That is my COC team. When I started, we had 4. And they have been doing such a phenomenal job. I mean, we got BP 12 rewritten. We have the template. We're going to start going out to the clubs and helping them get that in. But they work tirelessly. And I got to say, the clubs have been fighting like cats and dogs. We really need to get along a little better. I think the clubs are finally starting to realize that we're there for them, the CLC, and we're starting to regain their trust. And we had a meeting between the presidents and the CLC earlier this year, and they really enjoyed it. So next year, Angela is setting up 2 meetings. We're going to do one in the spring and one in the fall with the presidents of the clubs to try and hear their needs and work with them to get things done. And I would also, a special thanks to Mike Dermeyer and Angela in management. They've been working right along with us, and they're so helpful in getting the clubs what they need. And hopefully we can continue and do a great job and gain more trust from the clubs. Thank you.
Any others? Director Broski?
I want to go along the same line with the Sun City Foundation. As you know, we're expanding the foundation, and it's quite a job. I want to thank all the past members and the current members. You've worked very hard, and we are progressing. This year, we have helped 69 people with their fee assessments, compared to 38 last year. So we are growing, and we're searching for anyone that might be eligible. We've also collected all of the Santa for Seniors gift cards, and thanks to all of you, we've had $17,000 this year, which is, I think, the highest we've ever had. And those cards are being distributed this week. I think I'm probably the last one that hasn't got them all out yet. I will this afternoon. We're lucky to have a couple, what I would call professional foundation members who are guiding us through this. We are revising documents, eliminating documents, creating documents we never had, all needed because until we get our house in order, we cannot apply for any kind of a grant. So we're working hard, and next year in the spring, hopefully we'll have some new programs and some fun ideas. Thank you.
Director Keiss.
Yes, I'm the liaison to the Sun City Fire Department, and first thing I want to say is I thanked the fire department on behalf of RCSC and then actually the community as a whole for the outstanding support they give to our community. Our Sun City Fire Department is just fantastic, and the people there do a great job of supporting us and taking care of us. Going along with that, I need to pass on that one of the good things the Sun City, the fire department does for our community is provide lock boxes. And lock boxes are essential. Don't be like my wife and I and procrastinate in getting them on your house. They installed 550 lock boxes this year, and it's a great service to our community if you're in your home and they need to get in. That makes it much easier for them to get into your house in an emergency if there's a lock box. Going along with that, the cost of lock boxes to them has increased, and they really don't make any money on that, but just as a point of information, the cost of a lock box for someone that wants to get one installed is going up to $80 because of increased cost of their supply. Yeah.
Question. I'm one of those people that procrastinated. Where do I go to get a lockbox?
If you go to the Sun City Fire Department website, there is a contact set up for you to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's the easiest way. Or you can call their non-emergency number and they'll let you know also.
Director Nettesheim.
So I have two for today. I have, as the liaison of Friends of the Library, I would like to say, woohoo, we do have a signed lease for the next 5 years. So thank you for the Independent for having that in there. Thank you for management for communicating that to our members. I know it has been a journey, but it's been a really positive journey, and we have the leases signed. The other thing I wanted to share is I mentioned previously that the Technology Committee and the Outreach and Communication Committees were meeting together until February, early March-ish. The purpose of that is, as the new website is developed, they're going to be engaged in helping to build training modules, how we communicate this, how we make sure that as many members as possible have learned the information about the new website and have any assistance that they need. We meet the second Wednesday at 4, the third Wednesday at 4, and the third Thursday at 1. Members, even though it's a joint committee meeting, members are welcome to come sit in. It's just like any other committee meeting. It's the same times that the Technology and the OCC committee were meeting. So you are welcome to come sit in. Today, we have Tallwave coming, which is our website developer, that are actually going to be there to do a presentation to the joint committee. So just wanted to share that with you. We are moving along. It may seem like it goes in, waves, but we are moving along, and I want to thank both committees for working together and working with us on this.
Mr. President.
Director Collins.
Yes, I have another one. It's for the posse. As you all know, you see them all around. They go around, they check empty houses when you go away on vacation. They also have a program. You can go down there and they'll set you up for it. And they call you every day if you get on the list. It's a free service. They're working with the sheriffs on it, but it's a free service that you can sign up for. You know, they do a great job in all of our events. Unbelievable what they do and how many members they have. And, you know, go by and see them, visit it. They love to have visitors up there. Thank you.
Director Nettesheim.
So this is not really related to any committees or anything, but I don't know how many of you were here last night, but last night it was wall-to-wall people. These doors were pushed back, these doors were pushed back, and every seat was filled, and it was standing room only for the Christmas tenors. It was a really amazing event. Just being with our neighbors was wonderful. So I just wanted to share, I believe it was being recorded. I just want to share that for those that came, thank you, and you may have the opportunity to see it again. So thank you.
Anyone else? One more, Director Collins.
Yeah, and a couple of things here. The workers that set up these rooms are absolutely amazing. You watch after here, they'll take this stuff, move it around, be all set for bingo tonight. And then bingo, just want you to know they presented a check last week to, or donated $65,000 to charities here in Sun City. So the Men's Club does a great job. Thank you.
All right. Anything further? Excuse me. General Manager D. Lazansky, did you wish to make any report today?
I do.
Awesome.
Well, good morning to everyone that's here, and good morning to all of you that'll watch this on our YouTube channel. And kind of piggybacking off what Chris said, I was going to start with something else, but last night was packed in here, and I just want to say a special thank you not only to the people that get it set up and run all the technology, but also all our volunteers that gave up their seats so that we could squeeze a few more people in here and probably max out our fire marshal capacity. So again, it was a great show. I wasn't here, but it's been talked about a lot already. So thank you for putting that on, and thank you again to those volunteers that went and stood somewhere else so other people could have a seat. So that's kind of people we have around here. And in that same kind of vein, I just want to say thank you to all the members of Sun City and all the staff and all the volunteers that came out last Friday for the holiday celebration. Another amazing event. We had an awful lot of people here. I want to say thank you to all the people that participated. And we had the new duck race, which we had a colors and excitement and color commentary by another outstanding volunteer, Hank, who was sort of the MC of the duck race and called the race. And I think it was a little more exciting than we even thought it would be. So we'll see a number of changes in that. And then also I want to thank the people that decorated their golf carts. It was amazing. There were people that spent hours and hours to get their golf carts ready. We had about 150 or so. Last year I went too fast, so I slowed down. I had multiple signs telling me to slow down. The people along the route, there are hundreds of people around the route, appreciated that. One thing though, when you slow down, it takes an extra 45 minutes to get around the course. So it went from about 6 to 7:30. So again, thank you to all the people that made that happen. And it was just, again, like last night, there were just people out in the parking lot looking at each other's handiwork, having a great time, really building that sense of community. And really, you know, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about in general, was as this holiday season unfolds, I just want to extend my warmest wishes to each and every one of you. You know, this time of year is about reflecting. It's about thinking about friends and the gratitude we should have and coming together and working on things that are important, which we do here. But mostly we spend time thinking about our faith, our family, our friends, and our community. And this is a special community. Sun City is a way more than just a place to live. We have a lot of connections made here. Look at the different boards and the people that we interact with. it is a place that is unlike many others, not only because of its size, but mostly because of its people. So whenever we continue to work on things, we've done a lot. We have a lot of projects that we've completed. I think you heard the $6.5 million that was transferred out of the carry forward for projects that we did this year. We're looking at about the same amount next year. So that backlog of deferred maintenance and the wishes of the clubs and the people, we're not just chipping away at it, we're taking a sledgehammer to it. We're making major strides, and it comes from all the people here on the management team, especially the facilities and project managers, but it goes to everyone. Everyone is engaged and talking about what needs to be done, how can we prioritize it. And yeah, we probably spent more money than we should. We will work on that and better controls as we move forward. But I don't have a single person that comes up and says, man, this place looks terrible. This place looks great. And thank you for the boards getting us out there in front of it and allowing me to hire the people to get the work done and to pay them properly. So it is quite a place to be. And as we think about the new year, it's going to have continued challenges from members and from the board, from the staff. But I really appreciate your continued challenging of us, the support we get, the engagement, and all your contributions that are both, verbal and just, we know that this community has a lot of volunteers, and we volunteer a lot of money and a lot of time. We're thankful for all of that. One of the last things I wanted to mention is you may recall that last January we put out a special edition, much larger print, a lot more detail of the Sun City update. So this year we're doing the same thing. It's going to be another mega paper, but rather than asking for people to deliver it, I delivered about 3,000 of them last year. Nice for meeting the neighbors, but it took us a little bit too long to get them out. So coming to your mailbox soon, you'll have the January Happy New Year's edition of the 2025 update. So this is one of the few chances that a lot of people that don't engage in the RCSC get to see something. Just in my neighborhood, a lot of people said, I've never seen this. I don't get out to the rec centers. They were very happy. So this is probably going to be an annual thing, using the bulk mailing process to get that out. I appreciate all the time and effort that the clubs and the different departments and the people put in to making this paper really great. We've got the mock of it getting done here this week, and so it'll be going out after Christmas. So anyway, I just am grateful, and I ask that you would enjoy this season and that your holidays would be filled with joy and laughter and spending time with your loved ones. I'm looking forward to 25. It's going to be a great year. Optimism and excitement is kind of what drives me. If I weren't optimistic, this would be a tough role to be in. It's a tough role with it. So we've accomplished a lot here. We've got a lot more to do. And I tell you, it's really my honor and privilege to be the general manager. I take it very seriously. I wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. And as I said about, 200 times last Friday, ho, 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 Merry Christmas, as I was leading the parade. And may it be a blessed and happy New Year for all of you. Thank you.
Well, we have a brief segment here for president comments. I was going to mention three things, two of which have already been mentioned. So first, thank you to Director Nettesign. This is the signed lease, literally right here in my hand. So the library situation is resolved. Second, that was mentioned by Director Collins, was the effect of the men's club and how much they've contributed back into our community. Director Keiss and I were at the men's club yesterday and received a check for $28,000. So so this will be bingo tonight, and that's where a lot of those funds are generated. So we thank those gentlemen terrifically.
And where did you go with that $28,000 check?
I actually took it to Angie Nelson, and
Okay.
I told you to say it was a $10,000.
oh, Merry Christmas, Director Keiss. And then lastly, this one may not, will please some and probably offend some others, but, and this is kind of on me, that in previous, especially on when we have exchange meetings and people come up to speak, I've kind of let and been a little lax about that 3-minute policy. And believe you me, the number of emails I got after the last exchange about being too lax about that, I need to remind everyone to please try to adhere to that 3-minute policy. There was, to my recollection, nothing that said, oh, I can borrow this person's 3 minutes or that person's 3 minutes. That's not really what that policy was for. I mean, you get 3 minutes. Please organize your thoughts when you come up. Be concise, be efficient. And when I get that many emails, clearly other people in the community are getting upset that some of us are taking some liberties with their 3 minutes. So please try to adhere to that 3-minute rule or policy as best you can so that we can get everyone up and they can say the things they would like to say, and we can be more efficient in completing our member conversations. Okay, are there any other announcements from the directors this morning? Other than happy holidays. All right. Any committee recommendations today? None? All right. Then we're on to our motions. The next item anyway is a second reading of a motion on behalf of the Sun City Foundation to adopt Board Policy Number 3 entitled Guidelines for Investments. Treasurer Borski, please read your motion.
I move to adopt Board Policy Number 3 titled Guidelines for Investments.
There is, as a second reading, there is no second required here. Treasurer Borski, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first?
This is kind of a formality that we've had to do to allow us to do a better job of investing the funds that the foundation has. The group has determined that any monies in excess of $100,000 will be invested with safety, liquidity, and yield in mind, and we're doing fine with that right now. Thank you.
Ms. Johnson, please read the names of members who have signed up to speak for this motion.
Mr. President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Okay. Is there any discussion by the directors? Hearing none. The motion before you then is, on behalf of the Sun City Foundation, is to adopt Board Policy 3 entitled Guidelines for Investments. Secretary Rickmeyer, will you please?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I misunderstood this until I went back to the board. This is not our board. This is the foundation board, just for clarity.
Correct. Thank you. All right, Secretary Rickmeyer, will you please take the roll call vote?
Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Fimmel?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
President Foster?
Yes.
And I vote yes, with a vote of 9 yes and 0 no's. The motion is adopted.
Thank you. The next item of business is the second reading of a motion for the RCSC board to accept the recommended 10-year preservation and improvement fund forecast as it was amended at the November board meeting. Director Keiss, would you please read your motion?
I move that the RCSC board accept the recommended 10-year preservation and improvement fund, or PIF, forecast and move the line item Lakeview renovation initial design, which is slated for the year 2028, to the year 2025.
No second is needed. I haven't, hang on. Director Kais, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first?
Yeah, many of you will notice that what's on the agenda for the motion and what I read is not quite the same. I removed the preamble on behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee from the motion because the way it reads in the agenda implies that the LRP recommended moving the Lakeview renovation initial design line item from 2028 to 2025. Moving the line item was a board-amended change to the PIF forecast of the November board meeting, not an LRP recommendation. I wasn't sure about the correct way to do this under Robert's Rules of Orders, so I reached out to Tom Marone, who knows much more about the rules than I do. Tom, as usual, was very helpful, and we exchanged several emails on how to correctly do this. Tom even consulted with a Robert's Rules parliamentarian who said the actual motion starts after the words, "I move," and that the LRP preamble has nothing to do with the motion itself. Based on that guidance, omitting the preamble doesn't change the motion and is correct under Robert's Rules. It is important to understand moving the Lakeview renovation initial design line item only affects the forecast and is not a board approval to use the funds. A request to use the design funds must still go through the business case process with LRP as mandated in Board Policy 16 before any money can be spent. And then a personal lesson learned that I have from this is, you know, when you write a motion, just state the motion, don't add things about it. The initial one was recommended by the Long Range Planning Committee, but that should have been in my comments and not part of the motion, and that led to confusion, and I will not do that again.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of members who have signed up to speak on this motion.
Steve Oakes.
Steve Oakes, 115074. Good morning, board. I'm speaking against the motion for PIF funds to be moved to 2028, from 2028 to 2025. And based on what Director Kais just said, that removes considerable amount of what I was about to say. But I want to start off with one other thing first. Subject of spirit of the season, as Mr. Luzansky said, I want to say a huge thank you to the outgoing members, Kat Fimmel, Karen McAdam. I've had the opportunity to work with them in the past few years. Both of these people gave incredible amounts of time and energy to RCSC. I believe we have better transparency, member involvement during their board memberships. It's not a matter of whether I agree with or anyone else agrees with everything they did or said, but that we know their efforts to improve Sun City were genuine and are now appreciated. Huge thank to Kat and Karen. Now, I was going to talk about the Long Range Planning Committee on behalf part that Director Kais just clarified. It's not on behalf of Long Range Planning Committee. We did not get a chance to vote. We did not motion for it, as he just indicated. So that clarification, thank you, Director Kais, for taking that out of play. However, I'd like to just clarify, since I have the opportunity here, and now a minute and 28 seconds that Tom's watching, some of the reasons the committee members discussed for considering this not a board recommendation at this time. One, moving funds forward by 3 years from 2028 to 2025, including cost estimations, likely makes it obsolete before we can implement with construction. There's some experience with this recently, as we've learned already, with the use of 3 different architects for a Mountain View project. No final design, a lot of cost, no construction yet. So the timing needs to be much closer together and condensed, not a 3-year separation. There appears to also be some confusion that these Lakeview design plans, specific only to Lakeview on the PIF forecast, could be used to create an RCSC community master plan. No, that's not the purpose of that on the PIF forecast. These funds should not be used for a community master plan. This would be a misappropriation as it is laid out on that PIF forecast. Also, the committee's initial research on the cost of a community master plan consultant is no more than 20% of that $1 million move forward that's proposed. Without going through the review process of BP 16, which again, Director, I want to give you a doctorship, I don't know why.
I don't know why either, but thank you.
Okay, so real quickly, an approval of the motion of $1 million move forward of the PIF forecast would ignore and override BP 16 process, which this board just recently adopted. We would like to have that review and recommendation through the committee as it was intended. Please don't circumvent our process. Allow us to do that BP 16 process within the LRP, and don't allow an excess amount of money to be applied to the wrong use. Thank you. Merry Christmas to all.
Susan Bjork.
Huh.
112-650. I actually don't need to speak. I agree with Steve, but thank you for modifying the motion to reflect the correct process. I know that each one of you are not happy with me because I want to hold us to accountability and integrity and doing things right. But, you know, I'm doing it in the spirit of watching out for Sun City. So I hope you take that as what it means, and not that I'm out for any kind of vendetta against any one of you, because that's not what this is. It's just making sure that there's accountability and the right things are done. So again, thank you for taking that out. Appreciate it.
Mr. President, everyone who signed up has spoken.
Thank you. Is there any discussion by the directors? Director Keiss.
Yeah, I want to say I agree with Steve on this. There's no way these funds can be used for a master plan. We've had discussions about that, and I think Kevin has even gone back to our auditors and has confirmed that using PIF monies for a master plan for the community is not, it's not possible, and it's not actually, so we cannot do that. So these are only moved for the design. They can't be used for a master plan. That has to come out of operational expenses, which is a different chunk of money and a whole different set of conversations.
Are there other members of the board who wish to comment? Vice President McAdam.
Yeah. I think I understand what this motion would entail, and the reason I just want to explain to my fellow board members why I will be voting against it is that I am concerned about the delay that this would cause in terms of being able to move forward with the Mountain View project. You know, for us to say that we want to bring money in order to do a study, so we bring the money in, and then a study has to be done, and then some kind of decisions are made, and then we know whether there's going to be a pack at Lakeview or not, which impacts how we're going to handle the Mountain View project. And I think that we owe it to this community to be able to move forward more quickly on that. And for that reason, although I'm not opposed to planning, I am not going to be voting in favor of this motion today.
Thank you. Director Ruff.
I'm inclined not to vote for it as well because of the 3-year in advance. I don't know that we need that money to design something for 3 years down the road.
Director Nettesheim.
So this is a forecast. This is not allocating monies. And my thought when we did this was if we moved it forward, it gave long-range planning the opportunity to start building the business case because it comes on their radar sooner. To spend the money, it has to go through a business case process, has to come before the board, it has to be voted on, and then the money gets allocated. This is just one step in the process of saying, long-range planning, put this on your radar, start building your business case, ready for your recommendation. It's not, this was never, in my mind, intended to allocate the funds next year. The idea behind it was to start the process, and the reason being Mountain View. We've had lots of conversations about what we should and should not have for Mountain View, and it takes cycles of discussion with the membership, and this puts it on our radar to start doing some of those things. And that was my intention. And Steve, I'm not sure where the master plan money coming out of it ever came from, but certainly not from me and not from anybody that I heard on the board. So just to let you know that, but that was literally my thought process in this.
Others on the board, Director Keiss.
Yes, I agree with Chris on this. I mean, how many, first off, we can't delay Mountain View. Mountain View has got to continue to go forward. The membership wants that, and we've got to make that happen. And this can't be allowed to delay it because it's just gone on too long. And because of that and how long we've gone through the planning process, the discussion process, and is why I think the funds needed to be moved forward, because you can't build a good case for why you need something without accurate cost figures. And the only way you're going to get some sort of accurate cost figures, even a projection of them in 3 to 4 years from now, is to have professionals come in and do this. And so you have to be, in my mind, there has to be some sort of seed money that goes in so you can start gathering this information so that you can then go out to the membership and talk to them about, okay, these are the thoughts that we have on it, these are the possibilities. But you have to have some sort of information to give them, and the only way you can do that is by having someone give you some sort of an idea of what it's going to be like and what the cost possibly could be.
Director Ruff.
I'm going to make you a doctor, too.
Thank you.
Director,
Do I get a raise with that?
Yes,
Yeah.
you get a 500% increase in your current pay. 0 times 500 is 0. I agree with what you said, but I don't know that it's indicative of having to move the money to do it, but it should be a charge to long-range planning to start the process, and we don't need the money to start the process. If we get to the point where we need the money, that would be the time to move it forward. But if we don't even know what's going to happen, it doesn't hurt anything to move it forward because the board has to approve it, but that doesn't need that to stimulate the long-range planning. We just need to tell long-range planning, this is what you need to work on starting this year as a future for.
Okay, thank you. Director Rickmeyer.
Steve, you're going to have to wait a minute. I guess with regards to this, as this motion, all it is doing is just, it's a recommendation. Again, like Preston has said, like Chris has said, it still has to go through the business process with long-range planning. From my years of design, I don't know how many people know, I did about 25 years of mechanical design. And when you've got projects as big as Mountain View and Lakeview, it takes a lot. I mean, this seed money, if it goes through the business process and all that, and then the board makes the recommendation next year, that seed money gives that, whatever that architectural team winds up being, the opportunity to start, as far as to start all the processes that this architectural team is doing with Mountain View, so another team process. Without this, you're going to have potentially the delay that Mountain View has had, which we're an 18 or 19-year delay. This is not saying that this, I mean, we know how things go around here, okay? So the process for long-range planning to do the business model is going to take a few months, and then there's going to be the recommendation. This is just saying, hey, have the opportunity here. We'd like to be considered to move it to 25. It's not saying that it's a done deal. So I don't see anything wrong with putting this proposal and passing this motion today.
Anyone else? Director Fimmel?
No.
Okay. I tend to agree with Director Netteshine in her characterization of we are just moving a placeholder, and that long-range planning still needs to do a business case in order to get that money used for evaluating Lakeview. That was always my understanding of how this was supposed to go forward. So I don't know if that clarification changes anyone's opinion that has expressed some reservations here this morning, but I believe that that was the intent of the motion. Any other discussion? All right. Director Rickmeyer, would you take the vote?
Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Fimmel?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
No.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
President Foster?
Yes.
And I vote yes with 8 yes and 1 no. The motion is adopted.
Thank you. All right, our next item of business is, again, a second reading of a motion by Director Ruff to amend Board Policy 3 entitled Corporate Records. Director Ruff, would you please read your motion?
I move to amend Board Policy 3 titled Corporate Records as follows. Do you want me to?
Do you want to go ahead and elaborate as you need to?
Yeah, we don't need a second.
We do not.
This is a fairly simple change. It just makes it easier for our members to get copies of things if they need them. You can also see my confusion when we brought up Board Policy 3 for the foundation. I was going, what, huh?
Okay.
With that said, I think this is a simple process, and hope that the board members will approve.
All right. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of members who have signed up to speak on this motion.
Mr. President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Thank you. Any discussion by the directors? Seeing none, Director Rickmeyer, will you take the vote?
Treasurer Borski?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Fimmel?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
President Foster?
Yes.
And I vote yes with a vote of 9-0. The motion is adopted.
Thank you. Next item of business is a second reading of a motion by Director Ruff to amend Board Policy 21 titled Membership Documentation Requirements, Section C. Director Ruff, would you please read your motion?
I move to amend Board Policy Number 21 titled Membership Documentation Requirements, Section C, as follows. Under occupancy, each individual qualified by ownership and age and meets the following qualifications may get a maximum of 2 member cards. Then it also talks about having a valid out-of-state or out-of-country driver's license or an out-of-state photo ID. Paragraph 5 adds audits of properties may occur if information is provided raising issues of any misrepresentation. Audits may also occur for new owners who receive member cards to validate status of the property with Maricopa County Assessor's Office as a rental or non-rental. I also want to mention that Mr. President brought to my attention that and meets the following qualifications, get a maximum of 2 member cards. It's probably not stated the way that it was intended. So over to you.
Let's first see if there are any members who have signed up to speak on this, and then I'm sorry.
I'd rather have the amendment. That way they can speak to it more clearly.
So the language that I was going to suggest, do I need to make this as a amendment? Yeah. Okay, so I would like to amend Director Ruff's motion.
Amend this?
And so the language that I would suggest is each individual qualified by ownership and age that meets the following qualifications may get a member card, period. If ownership is held in more than one name and the owners meet the following qualifications, they may get a maximum of 2 member cards, period. And then it reads as you had proposed after that.
I think that's very clear. Thank you.
Is there any second? Thank you, Director Collins. Is there any discussion about the amendment?
Could you read that again, please? I'm a little slow on this one.
Certainly. So after the word occupancy, it reads, each individual qualified by ownership and age that meets the following qualifications may get a member card, period. If ownership is held in more than one name and the owners meet the following qualifications, they may get a maximum of 2 member cards.
Okay, thank you.
Right. We have a second. Is there any other discussion on the amendment?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I'm still confused by this, Tom. So essentially, are we saying that an individual who qualifies by ownership and age no longer has to qualify by any of the other qualifications that are listed here?
No, they have to go through that whole list. If that's not clear, that is not intended. That each individual qualified by ownership and age and meets the following qualifications, which are 1 through 5, they may get a member card. But if the property is held in more than one name, then if those owners meet the same qualifications, they may get a maximum of 2 member cards.
Okay, I'm not sure that I understand why we're distinguishing between each individual and more than one. So when you say each individual, doesn't that already encompass the case where you may have 2 people on the deed?
Do you think that addresses that, Director Ruff?
I think the change is because if you say each individual qualified by age may get a maximum of 2, it sounds like you can get a second one without that person meeting it. So that's why Tom addressed it the way he did, is to identify one owner, you can get 1. More than that, you can get 2.
I'm sorry.
Could I just ask for additional clarification? I thought it was going the way the Jim was, but if you could share your rationale for why you wanted to be more specific, I think that would help.
Mr. President, before you explain rationale, I think I stand in objection to an amendment to this motion because this is a second reading of this motion, and you are attempting to alter this motion.
That certainly was a concern that I had, was whether or not it was appropriate to do that at a second reading.
It may be necessary to conclude the second reading and at some future time make additional alterations to the bylaws.
If we let this slide past the year end, do we then have to go again, start over? Are there,
I would advise proceeding with the second reading of this motion.
without any changes?
Without any changes.
Yes.
I want to just check on Robert's Rules of Order. I thought we could amend a motion. That's why you have a second reading, is in case something comes up and you can modify it.
You have a second reading because the second reading is required before passing a motion.
And Mr. President, I think that if you do modify something at the second reading, it goes back to essentially an initial reading of it, and you have to do it twice at that point. Yeah.
All right, then,
Mr. President, I think we should postpone it until next year.
well, if I withdraw the motion, then
If you withdraw the motion, then we can proceed to review the second reading.
that's what I was hoping. All right. Is the language clear enough, Director Ruff, as it stands for the time being?
It's clear to me, but somebody could misunderstand what it means. I had that input from somebody this morning, from a member who said, does this mean I can get a second card? I said, no, it doesn't mean that.
That's what I was concerned with.
So I think if we're not going to change this, that we should just postpone it and try again next year.
All right, do you want to postpone? Okay, so I formally withdraw my amendment. Do you wish to postpone your motion?
I would move to postpone the motion and deal with it next year.
All right.
I have a question. Jim, because you've been working so hard on all these different board policy changes, by postponing this and starting fresh again next year on this one, does it have a domino effect on anything else?
No.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
No, good catch, thank you.
So I have a question. The way it reads, so each individual qualified by ownership and age, and that meets the following may get a maximum of 2 cards. So if we have 2 people that own the property, 3 people that own the property, 4 people that own the property, does that mean we're handing out 8 cards?
No.
That's not the intent,
That's
but
not
is
the
that
intent.
what legally we might be required to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just so you know, there is a property here that has six owners. There's 3 couples that bought it together, and they come in, each of the couples, for a month every year.
Okay, so the motion, the request is to postpone.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second to postpone?
I second it.
Right. Any further discussion on that? Director Rickmeyer, would you take the vote on the motion to postpone?
Will do. Treasurer Borski.
Yes.
Director Keiss.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Vice President McAdam.
Yes.
Director Ruff.
Yes.
President Foster.
Yes.
Director Nedesheim.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
And I vote yes. 9 yes and no no's. Motion to postpone passes.
Thank you.
If I may, I'd just like to make a clarification for all of you out there. You know how many times I read that and never read it the way our member did today? And that's why you need people to check you.
I volunteer to check you.
Thank you.
All right, our next item of business is a second reading, again by Director Ruff, to amend the bylaws. Director Ruff, would you address your motion?
Before I address the motion, there were 2 amendments that I wanted to make, but I guess I'll have to do it next year, and we'll just go forward with these as they are. I move to amend the bylaws as follows. Page 1 of the bylaws is the definitions. There's a few minor changes and an additional definition for incident reports. Article 1 now has 6 sections and a new header as corporate office. The header wasn't changed when things were moved into policies. Section 1 is the corporate categorization within IRS rules. Section 2 is the purpose from the Articles of Incorporation. Section 3 says parliamentary authority is Robert's Rules of Order. Section 4 is the corporate office. It resides in Sun City, Arizona. Section 5 sets the fiscal year from January 1 to December 31st. Section 6 sets meeting due dates and effective dates falling on weekends. So if we're supposed to meet on the 15th and the 15th's on a Saturday or Sunday, it will move back or forward as the case may be. Article 2 Section 1 sets members in good standing may do all these different things, which is vote, go to places, be parts of committees. It also sets out how members qualify to get membership cards. We did not have a consensus on changing the 75 miles occupancy and plan to address that next year. It may just stay the same. Section 2 addresses deeded owners under 55 years of age and what they can or can't do. Section 3 addresses non-owner residents and privilege cards. Section 4 addresses incident reports and allows serious events to be addressed with a hearing, even if a first offense. So the way it reads right now, you have to have 3 incidents before you end up going to a hearing. But if you do something particularly egregious, that doesn't allow us to do that. So we're changing it that if somebody does something really bad, we don't have to wait for them to do something 2 and 3 times, or a second and third time. Section 5 is deleted and addressed in new Article 13, and that's the hearing process. Article 3 has no significant changes. Article 4, Section 1 redefines notice for annual membership meetings and subject matter. Section 2, same changes as Section 1. Section 3 sets the proxy limit at 25 persons, and no significant changes to Section 4, 5, 6, or 7. Article 5, Section 1, 2, and 3 have minor changes. Section 4 addresses terms of 1, 2, and 3 years for elected board members to meet requirements of the Articles of Incorporation limit to 6 years as an elected director. And you saw evidence of that today in that Director Nedesheim and Director Borski were both elected to 1-year terms. The Articles of Incorporation say you can be elected for a total of 6 years. It doesn't say how many times you can get elected, it's max of 6 years. The policy, or the bylaws was reading 3-year was the only option. So we modified that to address if you get elected for 1 year or 2 years down the road, if you're running again and there's only 3 years left, or there's only 3 people to be elected, then they all get 3 years. But if you had a 1 year and a 3 year, you'd have to do a 2 year, so that it just makes it more difficult for Marcia to keep track of who's going to be what when. Where'd I go?
Section 4.
Yes.
Article 5.
Section 5 spells out board meetings and was drafted by a bylaws attorney specialist. I wanted to do an amendment, but I can't. We'll do it next year. But it says we have to have second hearings, and it doesn't not include the, I'm sorry, my brain's going.
Yeah, let's move forward, Director.
The executive sessions. So in an executive session, a second hearing doesn't make any sense, but we'll make that change next year. Section 6, minor changes, including setting the board coordinator as reporting to the board president rather than the GM. Article 6, sections 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 have minor changes. Section 2 adds appointing Sun City Foundation board members to the first board meeting of the new year to elect officers of the RCSC, normally on the first work day after January 1. The Sun City Foundation bylaws are that the RCSC appoints their members on the board, and each one goes for a 1-year term. There's nothing beyond a 1-year term. So when we meet on the 2nd of January to do our election for president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, we will also appoint the board members for the foundation. Section 8 addresses board member resigning from elected office but remaining on the board and electing a new director to fill that office. And we have an example of that too. Former President Fimmel did a fantastically excellent job, but she needed to step down but not leave the board. And we are delighted that she did that. Not that she had to, but that she was taking good care of herself. Article 7, minor changes only. Article 8, minor changes only. Article 9, minor changes for clarity. Article 10, mostly minor changes, and this is the one that I wanted to make, but we'll do it next year, but I'll put it out so people understand. Under Article 11, it talks about initiatives and referendums. And Director Keiss and I sat down looking at that, trying to figure, well, what's an initiative? What's a referendum? Why are they differentiated? Well, if you read it, a referendum petition must set forth the existing policy or regulation that's being challenged in clear and precise language. But what's a referendum? After talking to the attorney, a referendum petition must set forth the existing article in the Articles of Incorporation or bylaws that is being challenged. So the referendum is the membership doesn't like an existing bylaw or section of Articles of Incorporation. Then the initiative, if the membership wants to add something to the bylaws or to the Articles of Incorporation, they would do an initiative. So the change I wanted to make was just to clarify that so somebody reading it doesn't get confused like
I think we did.
Director Keiss and I. Article 12 is now Article 11 because we deleted that. Article 12 now addresses committees of the board. Please note that the Sun City and Focus Committee has been deleted as staff members are now making videos. Section 1 removes no meetings in July and August. Last year, when we had the SAC meeting through the summer, and this summer with the budget committee, we were meeting in July and August, and our bylaws said, you shall not do that. So we're making that change. It also establishes chair and co-chairs of committees and responsibilities in Section 2. Section 3 sets no less than 5 members as a goal for all committees, defines requirements for committee members, establishes who appoints committee members. President, chair, and/or co-chair or committee can have a process for doing that. It also allows attendance by electronic means. Section 4 defines each committee, including an ad hoc process. Section 5 spells out member responsibilities. Section 6 sets suspension or expulsion for committee members. Article 13 is a new discipline proceedings, is very similar with minor changes to the existing process, but includes a separate section for directors. Section 1 basically states at the end of it, if issues can be resolved without the petition process, the board members will achieve savings in terms of cost and time while avoiding disharmony and divisiveness in Sun City, Arizona. Section 2 addresses the process for directors. Section 3 addresses members and privilege card holders. And Section 4 is the hearing procedures, including how processes work, hearing decision notice, and appeal process. And it's the same hearing process for members as directors. Essentially, it's a little different because the director's removal is just a little more personal, I guess, is what I would say. With that said, that's everything.
Thank you, Director Ruff. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of members who have signed up to speak to this motion.
Susan Bjork.
Board, 112-650. So as you know, I raised a concern about one of the changes in the members of committees. It is now Section 3. It used to be Section 4, where you added that the board president, committee chair, or co-chair appoint or remove committee members, and then committees may establish internal processes for selection of members nominated for appointment. I raised my concern that, committees are established to get member input and not necessarily board member, selected member input. And so the may here, first, and then secondly, the remove is addressed in Section 6. So I'm not sure why you would have remove there as well. But at a minimum, I think to be fair, and you all know why I'm raising this concern, because of a recent experience. In the rest of the documents, you remove the shall and put will to make sure that things were accomplished. So at a minimum, I think the committees will establish a internal process, whatever that process might be. But I don't think that it's fair for the chairs to select their own members when we're trying to garner more input from the rest of the membership. It just doesn't look like it's a fair process. And we already know why and what experiences I've had relative to that. So I think this needs to be addressed, because the committees, again, are established for member input, not necessarily who the chairs believe would be the best members for those committees. I think the committees need to vote on that. And I gave you some suggestions, and I'll read it. The board president, committee co-chair, or committee chair and co-chair will appoint members to newly established committees using a process which invites qualified membership to apply. A process for fair selection must also be established, e.g. similar to a hiring selection scorecard, because that allows the members to be included. Existing committees will establish internal processes for selection of members nominated for appointment. The board president, committee co-chair, or committee chair or co-chair may recommend a new member for vote by the current committee members. And then, again, it doesn't need to say remove, because that's in Section 6. So I just think that the way that it's written leads to ambiguity and who really participates in establishing the committees. Thank you.
Mr. President, everyone who signed up has spoken.
All right, thank you. Are there any discussion by the directors? Director Ruff?
Since we can't make any amendments without making it needing a second reading, I move that we vote on it as it stands, and any issues anybody has, we'll have to deal with next year.
Did you wish to make a comment?
No, I said I can second that.
Well, he didn't make,
It wasn't a
that's
motion.
not a motion. Anyone else, directors? All right. Secretary Rickmeyer, will you please take the vote?
Treasurer Borsky?
Yes.
Director Keiss?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
President Foster?
Yes.
Director Nettesheim?
Yes.
Director Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. With 9-0, the motion is adopted.
Okay. Thank you. We're nearing the end now on this agenda, but I would like to offer an opportunity.
I would just like to thank all the 20 to 50 people that I talked to about board changes to our bylaws, and I appreciate your efforts and look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you.
All right, I was going to offer our outgoing directors an opportunity to make any sort of statement that they might want to offer to the membership and the rest of the board. Director Fimmel, would you care to make any statement?
It has been a pleasure to serve with the members of this board. This has been, for the prior 2 years, a difficult time. We've been in a transition period. I'm hoping for the future that the transition will continue as we try to strengthen our self-governance capabilities and to bring greater transparency and greater involvement to our members. It has been my distinct privilege to serve with and to serve the members, and I look forward to returning to civilian life and maybe coming and making some comments myself. Thank you.
Director McAdam?
So, Kat, I'm not sure that I agree with you that it has always been a pleasure, but it has definitely been a privilege to be able to serve RCSC as a board member, and I wish all, friend and foe alike, that the mission of this community would be realized in an ever-increasing fashion. You can find that mission statement, by the way, now on our web page easily. That was not the case for years. It's also on the walls in many public places. And I'm really pleased to see that we are coalescing around a common vision and mission. As I leave this stage, I'd like to reference a line from a well-loved Christmas hymn that captures my sentiments, which you might describe as optimism-tinged realism. Here are the two lines. A thrill of hope, the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. So in the spirit of the one whose birth ushers hope, redemption, and restoration to a weary world, I wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Well, that's hard to follow those two statements, but thank you to both of you. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve with both of you. You take a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge with you, so don't wander too far. All right. Our next meeting will be the exchange meeting on January 13th, 2025 at 9 a.m. here in the Sundial Auditorium. The next board meeting will be January 30th, 2025 at 9 a.m. again right here. And the annual meeting is coming up. We keep reminding folks, but that will be March 11th on 2025 at 6 p.m. here. So there being no further business and without objection, this meeting will be adjourned. And don't forget to turn your phones back on. And we are adjourned. That's okay.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.